Hi, I hope you're having a good day, or night, or whatever this is. This show is only possible because of support that we get at Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and consider kicking us a couple of bucks a month to help this show and other shows like it exist. This episode contains a large letters component appropriate for Dead Letter Office. We're going to do more of these. We announced this in the episode. If you want to do this, use the contact tab on fileunderwater.net. If you use other places, I'll probably get it. I'll probably catch it, but that is the best way to get stuff in there for when I go and do searches later on. So fileunderwater.net, and then just click the contact link. Thank you to everybody who wrote in and everybody who's going to write in future.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to File Underwater, the show where we try to convince you R.E.M. is America's greatest rock band.
Yeah. And this week we are doing something kind of different. So we would be remiss if we didn't talk about things like Dead Letter Office and Eponymous. However, we've already talked about all of the songs that are on them. So we're going to hit kind of the highlights about this the presentation, R.E.M's kind of interpretation of a greatest hits and B-side rarities album. And then we're going to read some of your responses. This is our Dead Letters Office.
Yeah, live letters office.
Yeah.
And if we weren't sure whether we're going to do another one of these, we'll probably do one or two more of these throughout the series, just to give you guys a chance. I know I said you could send in your general thoughts about R.E.M. because I wasn't sure, but hopefully you'll have more general thoughts about R.E.M.
Yeah.
As you think about R.E.M. more.
Yeah, and as we espouse opinions you disagree with.
Yeah, exactly. You can call us out.
Everybody was super civil.
Yeah, I didn't imagine that happened. Yeah, I went to karaoke last night.
Oh, yeah?
And was doing R.E.M. songs and because for karaoke for me, like sometimes I'm good and sometimes I'm not. And it's just whether I find it or not. Mm-hmm. There's not like a rhyme or reason to it. But I got to do previous when I'd done It's the End of the World As You Know It. Like I just couldn't find the right key and then fucked around with the remote and just kind of could do the chorus, but the verses escaped me and I landed. I did it real well.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I was like, this is a fun, impressive karaoke song, and I did it okay.
It is, yeah. I've landed it once or twice. However, that is a very poor get poorer kind of song.
Yes, yeah. It's like all rap songs too. Yeah, I've fallen victim of this where somebody will be like, "Hey, let's do that rap song from Flight of the Conchords," and then it's like, "Well, rap's hard."
Rap is super hard.
You get to the it's if you miss a line, and then it doesn't help that the karaoke version are all wrong.
Oh, of course.
The words are exclusively wrong. So if you are trying to keep your place at all, using it as a basis, it's kind of a complicated mental thing you're doing.
Yeah. You're better just to ignore it.
Yeah.
Because the pacing is going to get you off too, because it'll always be a little bit behind. Yeah. No, I'm excited about the next time we do karaoke because I want to bust out some non-standard R.E.M. stuff. I usually do What's the Frequency, Kenneth is my thing.
The place we do karaoke has a bunch of weird R.E.M. stuff too.
Yeah.
So you can do it's all the late singles and stuff. And then the weird mid-period singles where you forget that was kind of a radio hit. Near Wild Heaven. That's a radio hit. Weird.
Bang and Blame is a very strange song to do at karaoke. Yeah, I've done it. It's fine.
That song. I look forward to talking about it, but I kind of hate that song. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, it's super snipey. I like the verse though. It's fine.
Yeah, the verse is okay. It's not like a terrible song,
right?
But
yeah. So since we're talking about stuff that happened here recently, I hope you don't mind if I do a little bit of outro matter right now. But we were just in Milwaukee for the Midwest Gaming Classic here in March or April rather of 2017. We had some people come up and say that they found the network through File Underwater.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I think it would be the opposite. So
yeah, it doesn't bear out on the numbers, but you people do exist, and that kind of made my day.
I think it's at the very least, it is a sign that I think that we're the only people doing an R.E.M. a serious R.E.M. podcast right now.
Right.
I don't know that to be true, but if they found us through Google, that's probably true.
Yeah. So I just wanted to lay that out because I was very appreciative of that.
Yeah. Hi, exclusively File Underwater fans. Just wait till you get to the Summer of Come. You don't know what you got. It's a podcast mimic.
It's a podcast.
You won't appreciate that. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the actual R.E.M. B-Sides compilation, Dead Letter Office.
Yes. So this was released in April of 1987, shortly before Document, kind of during the time when Document was being produced.
Yeah. And this is, as Peter Buck and all the reading and stuff talked about how, like, hey, if I'm going to make a band, it's going to have B-sides.
Right.
That's important to me to have B-sides. I grew up in a record store. I worked in a record store.
Yeah.
So they've always had B-sides. We've always talked about it, made a point of it on the show. And there was demand for that because those are harder to find. And there was also like bootlegs and stuff. This is, we keep saying that like, this is their most successful tour, but it keeps being true.
Yeah.
And they're right on the verge of their first like top 10 single that shows up on a thing. Mm-hmm. And after that, it just like sky's the limit. They explode.
Right.
They go on a major label. So there's this increased demand, but some of this older stuff, these old singles and everything were made at a time when there was not that.
Yes. So what was happening was there were these singles that were being put out in England and in Britain specifically. And the singles had B-sides of this stuff that we have talked about, your Ages of You, etc. And people were actually getting those and then copying them and then selling them in record stores.
Yeah.
And so like they saw this like, okay, well, obviously people want this kind of alongside these other live show bootlegs that are coming out. So let's give it to them, even though there were reservations about kind of a sellout.
Well, they're repackaging stuff. Like it felt like they're just making money.
Right.
Like we've already sold this stuff. We're selling it again. I love a B-side compilation.
Oh yeah.
From a band. Like there's a Frank Black one that I really like called Oddballs. There's a Pixies one that I listen to a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like I love B-sides.
Yeah. There's a really good Eels B-side compilation. That's called like Trinkets and Oddities or something like that. That is really good. Yeah.
You run into bands too. Like this is not true of R.E.M. because I think this as a collection of songs is like not very cohesive. It's not meant to be, but it's not, cohesive or essential feeling. But the I feel like you can make the argument that the collection of singles from Belle and Sebastian is the best Belle and Sebastian album.
Oh yeah.
Because they put out a bunch of EPs that didn't have an album. Like they're just here's a song, here's 4 songs on a disc, and like this is all we're putting out.
The biggest example of that, Past Masters, the Beatles. Like that was one of the first like major album presentations that you could get paperback writer on.
Yeah. If you wanted that, and it's such a cool kind of thing. Like I really dug it. So like finding this, like, and reading kind of about the history, like finding this when I was younger, and then when I was older, reading the history of it, I was just like really grateful for it. Even though, despite the fact that we're going to get into it, like it is, they had our reservations, and it's hard to call it essential.
They were warranted.
They were largely right.
Yeah.
And they're really aware of that. This is the first album with liner notes from Peter Buck.
Yes.
Who does that. It was a little bit weird given that like Michael Stipe tends to be the voice of the band and kind of deal with all the liner notes and physical kind of presentation they have. Yeah. But he wrote little notes that kind of explain all of these songs that like I poured over when I was young because it was a direct line to the band.
Yeah.
And
it was like just Peter Buck. It was in his voice. There were some times where he just kind of like apologized for what was on here, in interviews. He said, hey, this, the stuff that didn't land on albums generally falls into a couple different categories, like total shit, stuff that just didn't fit onto an album, but was good anyway, or just kind of weirdos or jokes. And this has all of them. I think the funniest note in this is related to, King of the Road. He says, if there was any justice in this world, Roger Miller should be able to sue us for what we did to this song.
And we talked about it at the time. It's bad.
Yeah.
Like that King of the Road is real. Like just guys farting around the studio.
Well, they're shouting chords at each other.
Yeah, like it's should not be down to a record at all. But it transitions right from Walter's theme though, which is delightful.
Oh yeah,
and really cute. He talks about it like he says that this should be like thumbing through old 45s.
Yeah, it's like going to a
junk shop. Yeah, like a junk shop experience, which is valuable and cool. So, so there's some kind of like just little highlight, like jokey things about the the thing, and little bits of insight we've already presented that come from these liner notes. So like things like we talked about how Ages of You and Burning Down were these two attempts to turn that into a song for the album, and they kind of just got burnt out and sick of it. Like he confirms here.
Yeah. Which is weird because it never landed on an album, so there was never any demand or reason for them to play it. It just their relationship with that song has kind of been the through line of this series for us.
It's Ages of You was really early, so they've had that song kicking around forever. And you also, in the books that we read, I've seen reference where like they're Bird Is Down, they're kind of hanger on people like those songs.
Yeah.
So you can imagine them just being like, hey, I love that song, like play that tonight. Like, all right,
not your jukebox,
Jefferson.
Yeah. But there are a couple things like, hey, this has Crazy, cover by Pylon, a band that we talked about a lot in the first couple of episodes. That actually Peter Buck heard that for the first time when Chronic Town was released, and he got real bummed out, thinking like, oh, they're just doing so much better than us. And that's a good version of that song.
They do a great job of it. I think that was the B-side in the last episode. We talked about them calling them up, try to get the lyrics of that. But for the most part, this is just kind of like a collection of that ephemera. This is the kind of thing that I feel like is kind of obviated by YouTube. At the time it made sense to have all this stuff in one place, and I really appreciate having the disc. It also got released with Chronic Town.
Yes.
Chronic Town, this is the first time Chronic Town was ever on CD. Was attached to this.
I think it might have been the only time that Chronic Town was on CD until it became its own its own side thing, or its own digital distribution thing.
I definitely had it attached to Murmur at some point.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how. Like that could have been like a weird bootleg, like, because the record store in my hometown used to have bootleg CDs and stuff and weird like imports and things. That might be how I got it. But I definitely had a Chronic Town Murmur. But there was also Chronic Town Dead Letter Office, which that turns into a great value actually. If you don't have access to it,
because Chronic Town's great. So this was kind of accompanied by a VHS release of all of their of all of their music videos of, the A-sides. And that was called R.E.M. Succumbs, which again, showing this kind of like nose turned up attitude toward the idea of music videos. Yeah. Which is what's going to be interesting is in the next episode when we talk about Document is the turning point where they kind of embrace that medium. Yeah. Like the music videos start looking like music videos with Document and then continue on. Until they eventually kind of got more interesting. But like, there's the One I Love video is a real standard. Kind of thing. But like just kind of in looking back on this collection of songs, and this is stuff we've covered throughout the whole series. Do you have a favorite? Do you want to do a favorite, least favorite? That's from Dead Letter Office. I really, really enjoy Blue Eyes. This has three Velvet Underground songs on it. I think they're all really, really good covers. So I'm going to say that one. I like the original version of that song a little bit more. What's your loser on this? Okay, so are we going to jettison King of the Road? Let's jettison King of the Road and let's jettison Voice of Harold. Because that's so clearly like a joke. I'm going to say Burning Hell. Burning Hell is extremely rough. It's not my favorite thing. I don't even think it was a good idea. Like I'm not indifferent to it like I am to something like White Tornado. White Tornado is hard to hate. I would probably say my favorite song on the B-sides compilation is probably Crazy, cover of Crazy. And then maybe follow, like I like, Burning Down and Ages of You. I wish they had combined those two and made it into just like an album track. But I also like Bandwagon a lot actually too. But like I think that Crazy is probably my favorite. And then my loser is probably Femme Fatale, which is a song I like the original version of with Nico singing it, but the R.E.M. version seems like a boring stunt to me. Like it's like a really, really slow
Like I don't know why you would take really slow Velvet Underground songs and then like crank down the BPM 20 beats per minute. Like, that seems the opposite direction to me.
Yeah. And it's kind of the opposite of the direction they usually go with their covers. Yeah. They usually punch them up.
Almost all covers do that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of covers, covers and live versions tend to be faster, not slower.
Yeah.
So like, I think Femme Fatale is a real slog on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like Burning Hell is not good.
No.
Like I just, but it's that's an extremely bad song too.
Yeah, but like Femme Fatale, like it's fine. It just bores me. Burning Hell is just like abrasive.
Yeah,
I don't care for it one bit.
Yeah. They also, so in October 1988, and we're kind of doing this, getting out of order a little bit because Document comes out in here as well. But we wanted to talk about their actual greatest hits compilation that came out that exclusively covers their IRS years, eponymous, which I think is a great title for something.
Oh yeah,
actually.
Yeah, it's a good exotic word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also kind of it's really appropriate for like it's kind of empty. Mm-hmm. Like naming something a reference to titles in general, kind of encapsulates how, what a greatest hits compilation kind of is. Like it's kind of an empty expression.
Yeah, and it's like R.E.M. as themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is kind of neat because it's not just a straight up like, hey, a repressing of what was there before. With stuff from the really, really early years, they actually chose versions and takes that they felt worked better than what ultimately made its way to the public. So like instead of having the Murmur version of Radio Free Europe on here, they have the original Hibtone cover, not cover, demo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think so? So that part of it was like the versions they thought were better. I always feel like these kind of things, and this happens with all greatest hits compilations, where they put one or two new songs or alternative mixes to get people who own all the albums to buy the greatest hits as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
And that feels like part of it too, because there's definitely like some tokenism on this.
Yeah.
As far as like, there's one token new song, which I'm glad they included. Yeah. But it is, just one extra song and then these extra mixes for completionists.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that maybe they would, if that's the angle they were going for, I don't know that they would have made the alternate take their most popular one that people might have like sought it out for. I guess Radio Free Europe wasn't the most popular thing by this point, probably the one I love or whatever. But yeah, that doesn't seem like the intuitive one to kind of tokenize for that.
Yeah.
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 An alternate vocal take on Gardening at Night actually seems to make a lot of sense to me.
I think that makes more sense than the Radio Free Europe or the horns mix thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, like I said, this came out in October of 88, as we mentioned. This is, the outside the liner notes, they file under grain, and a lot of the imagery is this kind of, green grass thing. I remember reading, and this is not in the R.E.M. books I'm reading now, but way back, just random detail that has stayed with me since I was like 17, reading the R.E.M. book I read when I was younger, and people joking about it being called file under gain because it being like a cash grab. So, and that's I think it's gonna hound R.E.M. for the rest of eternity because we resent a success. So
yeah, all of a sudden they are up and you can punch there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, File Under Grain was also kind of a concession or admission that talk about the passion is about hunger a little bit too. Yeah. That is what I read in my books on that.
And one of the weird things is this is when Talk About the Passion was released as a single. Is actually the single for this album, and there is a video for it, which we talked about way back in the Murmur episode. I think that had all the pictures of warships, and then like the end had big white letters that was like a warship cost this much money in this year. Yeah. It was kind of interesting for them to take this real old number and release it as a single. This late in the game. Yeah.
Especially this real old number that was not indicative of where they were at that point as a band.
Where they're going at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that, like you talk about the passion couldn't be more different than, Document.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a fun detail about this that I like is, so on the inside cover, there's a picture of Michael Stipe with writing over the top that says, "They airbrushed my face," because Michael Stipe suffered from acne a lot and his, complexion is really pockmarked and scarred. So he wanted to kind of make this feint toward kind of genuineness, but he didn't actually publish the original picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand.
Yeah.
It kind of seems to defeat the point there.
I think it's just him generally. It's like art fuckery.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like embracing the artifice of, kind of like a postmodern kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think is the idea there. Peter Buck wrote liner notes for this as well, which is kind of like the way that you get this information about when things were recorded and who and what the circumstances were.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of neat little details there.
Yeah. It's either these liner notes or Peter Buck talking with Bucket of Brains.
Yes, yeah. If your subscription to Bucket of Brains has ran out, you've got this. There's some like really cool ones. I love the bit for Gardening at Night where he's like, says like written on a mattress in a front yard, now condominiums.
Yep.
Like that, like the economy of that. That's that.
It's a baby shoes.
Exactly what we talk about when we talk about love. Like Raymond Carver economy for that. Now condominiums.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Yeah. This is where he says that the Hiptone demo of Radio Free Europe crushes the other one like a grape.
Yeah.
So it was them kind of making a statement, I suppose.
Or Mike and Jefferson think that.
Yes.
Specifically. Like, so he kind of he calls out the people who like different mixes and kind of
he throws them under the bus.
Yeah, totally. Like he does it like for Fall on Me. He's like, Michael likes this one. I was like, you don't like this song? What are you talking about? Like,
it's really fucking good.
Yeah. Geez, Pete.
Yeah. He comes out and says like, Fables of the Reconstruction, people misunderstand it, but it was in the right direction. So like they were already coming around on it as a work by this point.
Yeah. No, he talks about that. He talks about that Life Shirts pageant, not Fables of the Reconstruction.
Oh, sorry. Whoops. Yeah, pageant.
That's okay.
I got those confused.
Yeah. I mean, because it didn't, this is probably too fresh for them to come around on, Fables, which eventually they would do, but I think that happened later.
Yeah.
And you can see the kind of the Fables, the songs that came from Fables. There's just two, and they're pretty dismissive. Like Driver 8 is train song from Fables with train video. Like it's like a white label or white box black text. You know.
Yeah. It's the album liner note from Repo Man.
Yeah. Line. And then for Can't Get There From There, he just says that Philomath. Where it's located, that it once had its own post office, which I still think is a funny joke.
It is.
The new song that is here is from the Made in Heaven soundtrack, which is a 1987 film, which I have not seen. Yeah. Has a song called Romance. There's another old song, like there's an old Murmur version of this. I think that we talked about.
It was written alongside Stumble, actually.
Yeah. And I've always liked this one. I like that when guitar, that jin 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 ding ding ding. Like I'm always into the kind of that beat. So I've always kind of liked this number.
Yeah, it's real. It's real halting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. I like it quite a bit. And also, it has that kind of like ghostly, like everybody down in the mix production that is just not where they're at right now. Again.
Yeah, especially the chorus. Like the chorus is really hard to kind of figure out what's going on. With every individual instrument. Yeah. The drums get real like percussionist-y as opposed to drummer, and it's a kind of switch between that punk, I mean, it's not a punk. If you thought R.E.M. couldn't rock, the kind of that, dun, 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 kind of thing. And then going into this like lower sound bed kind of quality for the chorus. And I think the conflict really works.
Yeah. It's good, and I'm happy it exists. So when we talk about stuff, this kind of being obviated by YouTube, YouTube is an amazing resource. I get terrified of rights shit just taking all of that away. Like it is, I think it is pretty ephemeral. It is more ephemeral than actually having an actual product that is put out with this, and that's why I really love the fact that they have these two things that like gathered these up and kind of like put them in the arc a little bit.
Like I'm glad that they're in the arc. I think that ephemeralness, like that's a anxiety I sympathize with, and then has never come to fruition.
Yeah.
So like for years and years, this stuff has just kind of stuck around. Like when I find videos of weird oddities and live shows and stuff like that R.E.M. definitely has the rights to take down. They're several years old.
Yeah.
And some point you will re-up. It's this constant like whack-a-mole with 1,000-armed kraken. Yeah. That like rights companies try to do, and they just will never keep up. And R.E.M. is actually really good in that like a lot of bands have started owning their stuff, for this. So if you go to the R.E.M. channel on YouTube, they have a lot of like everything that's been on one of their albums, they probably have a version of. Yeah. Either a live or a studio version of all their music videos, all of that. Like, and I think bands are getting better about that. Like I picked up the newest New Pornographers record, and all of those songs, they just put up the audio track of it on YouTube. You know, like it's here. If you want to listen to it on YouTube, you can. Like it's streaming on NPR. You can listen to it on YouTube. Like they recognize that, you know, people who want to own it will own it.
Mm-hmm.
People who want to own it legally will get there one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And like, why make yourself a bad guy?
Yeah.
You know? So I think that, you know, it's possible for them to take it down. I'm glad the CDs exist because I don't want them to ever go away, but I think that we're probably okay too.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I just hope that if they're taken down, somebody has a backup they can put up is my biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I do not want to like have this, you know, have that all happen and then have the show end with me sending an email to like some weird fan RSS board or, you know, not RSS, ICQ kind of board and like try to like, you know, get somebody, what word am I looking for?
You're looking for like IRC?
Thank you. I am looking for our IRC channel. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, but so I don't end up having to like join our IRC channel to like, you know, at R, you know, or like REM/bootlegs.
Yeah.
You know,
hashtag mumblers.
Yeah. You know, exactly. Like Mumble Patrol. Like I need a save. Like I need the B-side for Electron Blue.
What, you're the asshole who didn't like Gardening at Night? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Banned.
Yeah. So hopefully that does not happen and YouTube continues.
Yes.
Yeah. And the GOP will find a way to take it away from us.
No, I mean, of course.
Like, literally working on it right now, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a couple like oddity things that we might have missed.
When we talk about oddities, Gary, you found Jazz Lips.
I found Jazz Lips, baby.
I wish you hadn't. Yeah, no.
It's excruciating.
Mitch, what'd you do?
Yeah, it's I take back all the nice things said about Mitch Easter. It's
Chronic Town is worse in it is worse for this existing.
Yeah, it's really, really rough. It's like it's real. It's all tape loops and weird kind of tribal drumming.
Yeah.
Kind of loops and then just kind of guitar fuckery over it.
Yeah.
It's real ugly. It's like 4 minutes long. It's excruciating.
Yeah. So we don't do this, but since it's my edit, like I really want to underline this. I'm going to put in a small little snippet of it.
Put in 8 minutes of it. put in it twice. You know, as a kind of loyalty test for people listening and see if they can get to the part where their letter gets read.
Gentlemen, prepare your skip button.
Yeah, exactly. And then under Jazz Lips, we'll just be like Casper mattresses the whole time.
A new kind of hybrid memory foam.
Like this fucking like is being voted the internet's best favorite mattress. Go to hell. Awarding yourself this meaningless accolade. Like it's quickly becoming the internet's favorite mattress.
It's the mattress
nothing together. Like
it's the mattress you've heard the most about.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the mattress I have to hear about the most. It's amazing how I can go through my whole life without somebody telling me about a mattress until you fucking came along.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, to be fair, we probably cut about 45 to 60 minutes of me telling you about Serta mattresses. You know, I'm not endorsed. I'm just a fan.
Every episode, it just kind of like we have to. It's our pregame.
Yeah,
I just play Game Boy. Like it's
Gary met me in a mattress store, and I've never stopped pitching.
Yeah, it's a superhero origin. He used to work there. It's GameStop, and you think it's the video game GameStop, but it's where your pickup game stops in bed.
Yep.
So it was this mattress store for PUAs.
Yep.
Where there's the Serta boys going to town.
But buy the fuck pillow and get a tarp for free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he won't even let me fuck it. Yeah. But internet ads. And then those Casper ads that are about the unboxing of it.
Yep.
Like how desperate sad is
inhales.
That? Like, like having to listen to, you know, people I admire try to explain how cool it is to open a box.
How cool the shipping logistics are.
Yeah, it's so cool. It comes in the box the size of a mini fridge.
Yep.
Are you fucking 2 bits of gander? Like I'll give you a nickel to see a box the size of a mini fridge that has a whole mattress in it.
Well, what I want is
I have a rube.
Well, what I want is the story of a person who opens the box in too small of a room.
Yeah, until it dies. Or like a hoarder whose like house is filled with those boxes, and then like there's an earthquake or something, they all burst. The house explodes like the house at the end of Real Genius. Like
good Real Genius poll.
So I saw they played it at the Sectron Theater by my house. I saw that like a month ago.
That's a fun movie.
It's real good.
Yeah.
Like that weird that 80s science nerd revenge movies. Like there's two of them and they're good.
There's two of them. Yeah. I definitely prefer this to Revenge of the Nerds though. I think I think a young Val Kilmer is great as the burnout slacker genius.
He's very good.
Yeah.
I think Revenge of the Nerds would be good without the weird like rape part of it.
Yeah. Like, Booger's a great character.
Yeah, that's weird.
Jocks only think about sports, nerds only think about sex. Yeah, that's real gross. Booger's a great character. I love the scene when they get the black frat people to come by. They put on Swing Low Sweet Chariot.
That's extremely funny.
And the electric violin solo. All of those are good things.
Oh yeah, the whole band thing at the end is really fun.
Yeah,
that's really good. Yeah. Anywho, Jazz Lips. I also found a couple of other old songs from their early days that are originals that I think we missed, and these just came up in also things and missed them just for completionist sake.
Yeah.
So there's an old original track called September Song.
September Sang.
Oh, September Sang. Thank you.
Yes.
Which the recording is from the I&I Club in Athens from 1982. And this is, I think, it's pretty slight, but I think it has a lot of like the kind of R.E.M. 60s influence to it. That would kind of come up a little bit more later.
Yeah. I like the lyrics to this. They are simple and cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's another song too here called "Ha, We Get Paid for It," and
a little grandiose, but okay.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Like not yet. You don't.
No.
Like I read the book. Like, you'll get there, but not there yet.
And this is real cool. It's kind of like a mix between like Gang of Four and Pylon a little bit. Like real just kind of like clean but dark and reverberated guitar. Real kind of drony. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this would have been neat if this got cleaned up and could have been in that like the weird Gang of Four slot that they had on on Fables and Murmur.
Yeah. Or like back half of maybe Reckoning, probably.
Yeah. I think this would have been neat if it got developed. But I understand, they got sick of it, but it was a cool idea. We also, I think we made a brief reference to this at one point about Michael Stipe's kind of side pieces.
Yes. So
he's got going on.
In one of the first episodes, we talked about Tanzplagen, which was like the German noise rock kind of thing. It's really good. I like that a lot, actually. But the other one that he did that gets a lot of mentions is the Golden Palominos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He cut an album with them in 1987.
Yeah, I think it was like in that weird we have free time section after or during Life Search pageant.
Yes. Yeah. This was and they have their 1985 album Visions of Excess. Mm-hmm. Michael Stipe was a member of the band. Kind of did lead vocals on several different songs.
Yeah.
And they're not bad. What's kind of interesting when I was looking into this is that this was Sid Straw's band, and I was always trying to figure out why Sid Straw was famous. Who is like somebody who's just kind of been floating around.
Okay.
In general, she's on an episode of she's the math teacher on Adventures of Pete and Pete, so that's why I knew she was involved in that world.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's that weird like post-punk Pete and Pete stripe.
Yeah. She came out and there's I used to have a They Might Be Giants bootleg where she came out and sang part of a song with them.
Yeah.
Like, who is Sid Straw? And now I know she's the Golden Palominos.
Yeah.
And at some point, Matthew Sweet was in the Golden Palominos as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's their other kind of claim to fame. So it's kind of this weird super group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is pretty good. Like, it is kind of drony and jammy in a way that I can get down with. And this is, I really think Michael Stipe having as much control over the mix as he's ever had, because he is below everything. Yeah.
It's kind of neat. It's it's kind of dated sounding. It doesn't sound timeless the same way that a lot of good R.E.M. does, but it's I dig it.
Yeah.
Around this time, also, Michael Stipe did some vocals and I think co-writing of a song called a campfire song on the 10,000 Maniacs album, In My Tribe.
Yes.
Which, we talked about his friendship with Natalie Merchant.
Yeah, and that's going to come up next episode as well.
Yeah.
If we ever need a new bonus episode for this, we should really do
Sentimental Hygiene.
Sentimental Hygiene. We're going to bring that up next episode. I was thinking the Pete and Pete episode where Michael Stipe is a guest star.
Oh yeah, that's the Sludgesicles. Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah.
And when that comes up, we can definitely talk about it. It's a really fun performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete and Pete's really good.
I'm due for a rewatch actually.
That's an extremely good show. So the letters in the Dead Letter Office episode come from you guys. So we've got a bunch of responses from people. We're going to read them.
Yeah, we're really thankful that people kind of came out. There's a lot of really thoughtful and there's a lot of thoughtful stuff here, and a lot of people praised us, which I really appreciate. Maybe a little bit more of that got through than usually comes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's get started with Kyle, who writes in saying, I'm listening along with the series mostly to get a perspective on 80s and 90s music that I totally missed. One touchstone of the show is the character type of Southern weirdo. Since I'm Canadian, this is a thing that I had never heard of before. Can you talk a bit about what you mean by Southern weirdo and how they differ from your weirdo vulgaris?
I just had to, I Googled weirdo vulgaris to see if it was actually a term that I didn't know and not just, like kind of a joke about taxonomy.
Yeah. It's a joke about taxonomy, like the common weirdo.
Yeah. I don't think this is actually like a thing that has a broad swath to it. I think it just kind of, we mean a weirdo in the South.
Yeah. Weirdo in the South probably has a very individualistic streak. Probably is not reclusive for the majority of the time. Definitely probably gets their weirdness out and is like more a part of the community probably. And I'm literally just kind of like reverse engineering that from the people that we hear about on Fables.
Yeah, like what's the word? It's not folk art, but it's like outsider art.
Yeah, outsider.
Yeah, like outsider artist. So like a kind of rural strange person who's not a stereotypical like a hillbilly or anything.
Right.
Like we're not talking about that. It's like somebody who is kind of like a more friendly Deliverance. Like
yeah.
Like a strong, how those guys had a strong individualistic streak.
But they knew what they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think like outsider artist or something, like that is the biggest thing I'm thinking of, like, eccentrics.
Yeah,
which are
eccentric will probably
not that different than a Northern eccentric or American eccentric, or I imagine a Canadian eccentric.
Yeah.
But with that kind of folksy history.
Yeah.
Bit that the South has.
Yeah, I could see that. I would also say like a northern eccentric or an urban or city eccentric probably has other weirdos that they can get along with and kind of become a part of a community, whereas a southern weirdo kind of sticks out because there probably are not as many people like them. Like Michael Stipe, if he was not successful, would have become a southern weirdo. Like he would have just like after Howard Finster died, just moved into his statue garden like a hermit crab.
Yeah, like a garlic crab.
Yeah.
And then I mean, because I guess when I think about a northern eccentric like that, that kind of stuff becomes hip.
Yeah.
Then you become Andy Warhol and you start like an art movement. Whereas I feel like in a less urban area, you're more likely to be kind of, again, like individually, like it's not part of a movement.
Yeah.
Howard Finster isn't part of a movement.
Right.
And then some of these people are just legitimately like mentally unwell people, like that life and how to live it guy who is just, that kind of thing maybe is more likely to happen in the South because of isolation.
Yeah.
And, and all this stuff is kind of moot now because of the internet.
Right.
So like now there are no isolated weirdos.
Yeah.
Every weirdo just goes on to like whatever Reddit and just finds a bunch of people like them.
Yeah, Life and How to Live It would have been a live journal.
Totally. It would it would have been like in r/poll thing about anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Like it would have been
my god, like
an anti-Semitic anthem.
So we praise this dude and we say all these nice things about him, like, oh gosh, like what a weird story, how cool would that be, just to find out that Life and How to Live It is this crazy anti-Semitic screed. So sorry.
We are not pro anti-Semitism.
No.
I'm extremely pro-Semitism.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that so here's my shorthand for Canada. Like the South there is just it's like Ottawa or Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
So just say like, oh yeah, picture somebody who lives like in a small like ranching town who dresses weird. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And if Kids in the Hall is like taught me anything, there are people like that.
Oh yeah.
You know? And
they probably dress like women.
The Kids in the Hall has taught me anything.
Yeah. If Kids in the Hall has taught me anything.
If Kids in the Hall has taught me anything, is that Dave Foley is the most attractive of the kids in the hall when he's a woman.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Jordan says, thank you, Kyle.
Yes, thank you.
Jordan says, I'm a fan of all your work, and at the time of the show's premiere, R.E.M. was my biggest musical blind spot. As a musician myself, I was often chided for missing out on one of the greatest bands to come in our time. After a time, I simply resigned it to being one of those things you never get around to. That is until the Soft Boys came to save the day. Soft Boys is a band, too.
Yeah.
A good band. You do have the ability to make anything interesting and are premier podcast pros. Thank you. I thank you for making me take the plunge and indoctrinating me into the R.E.M. fandom. Keep being forces for good. Thanks.
I hope we're not yes, thank you very much. I hope we're not indoctrinating people. I hope that we are persuading them with our enthusiasm.
I hope that we're indoctrinating people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'll take it. We get paid for it. I'm Stipe.
Look at me. I'm Michael Stipe.
I'm Big Stipe from Stipe Time Records. But yeah, I'm glad. I feel like if you are like a musician and you like this is, one of those bands where even if we don't convince you to like them, like, the importance is not really arguable.
Right.
And if you're a musician, I think it's like, or a songwriter, like this is, part of the text.
Yeah.
So even if it's not to your personal taste, like it's worth knowing about because it is important.
Yeah. And even, so it might not be to your taste, but they're, they are a diverse enough band that I feel happy that we can call out like, hey, this is kind of what this song or this album represents in terms of like their evolution or their arc. So like we can, I feel good about helping people maybe find the R.E.M. thing that's a good fit for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause they're definitely a band for which, that has faces.
Yes.
And like what I find, and it's, I can't say this definitively since I've always kind of feel like I've always liked this band as like one of my first favorite bands, but the parts of it that I like gets me through even albums I don't think are super great.
Right.
Because there's always going to be like little hints of the stuff that I really like, even if it gets de-emphasized, so like the next out, like, talked about on Life's First Pageant, the lyrics kind of being, a bit more direct, than I like, and then Document's going to take that really far.
Yeah.
And I still don't love that part of it, but these other things I love that I grew to love in periods that are more friendly to me, are still on offer a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit like sourdough. Like there's just a small piece of the original thing that is carried through and used as like a starter for something else.
Yeah.
Liam writes, File Underwater convinced me to pick up the definitive editions of the first 3 R.E.M. albums. They're great, especially because you can hear Mike Mills's bass lines more audibly. And while I could name 10 examples that this show has highlighted for me so far, nowhere is this more clear than the track Harbor Coat. There is a bass note on the 4th chord of the verse which is so out of key, yet absolutely perfect for what that song needs. Mills's playing is aggressive and weird, yet perfectly fits what the band is doing. The only other bassist that I can think that does this in such a revelatory way is Peter Hook of the Joy Division and New Order, who is the best bassist of all time. So, good company for our nerdy boy. Thanks again for doing the show. It's been fun to revisit this stuff with fresh ears. P.S. You're so wrong about gardening at night.
And there's a wink emote.
Yes, there's a wink emote.
Don't leave out the wink emote.
Yeah.
The wink emote is what makes it okay.
Yeah. So Liam is very active in the Slack. He's one of our mods, and he's definitely one of the people who's most kind of responsive when we put out new stuff. And yes, we have disagreements. I think that maybe we reacted a little bit too strongly to Gardening at Night. I still don't think it is in the top half of songs on that album.
Yeah, I don't think we reacted that strongly to it.
Yeah,
it's hard.
True.
I think that we're probably just like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. I think that's probably like, or I think this is kind of boring. I think is the most negative thing we ever say about anything, really. And then
some weird stuff about Burning Hell.
We did just say some mean stuff about burning hell, but like generally, I think that what happens sometime between when we record something and someone listens to it, because of the contrast, people will kind of like, whatever the reverse of amplify the dislike of something, where it's like, oh, I can't believe you hated that. I didn't hate it. I just, I don't hate any part of that album. Like I don't hate any R.E.M. albums, and I don't think I like other than Jazz Lips and maybe like
Radio Song.
Yeah, Radio Song I get a lot of goofs out of. Like I don't think I would erase Radio Song from existence because I think it's really funny. But like I think it's the worst R.E.M. song. Yeah. But the I just so I don't think we were super hard on it, but I could be misremembering that too.
Yeah. I think we called it like adult contempo, and that was part of the part of us making a point about Chronic Town kind of having a lot of the like being evidence of a lot of the directions that they would go. Later on, and I think that Gardening at Night is like representative of a certain stripe. And I also think we reacted poorly to Gardening at Night being like the vertical slice that people took out of the Chronic Town era to say like, hey, this was them, when something like Wolves Lower or Boxcars is more to our taste. Yeah.
I think I agree.
Yeah,
like I think that's what it was. Is it's like it doesn't. Doing the show the way that we do it ends up actually kind of like doesn't serve Murmur all that well, because we just did Chronic Town, and it's really easy to get really excited about Chronic Town, and Murmur is such a weird, even now, like going through the album, like there's no other album that sounds like that that they've done, and I think that Gardening at Night is the most representative of that kind of sound. That kind of until way later, like until you get to like Around the Sun style stuff.
Yeah, until you get to Reveal.
Reveal, which is also has that kind of like everything has a weird reverb on it, kind of feel to it.
Yeah, but we can all agree on Harbor Coat.
Oh yeah. And also Mike Mills is the best member of the band.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
I want him to be canonized so he can be our patron saint.
That'd be great.
I'm not just talking about the show. I'm talking for like me personally.
He would look great in his monster outfit on a candle, like a saint candle.
Oh God, you're right.
Like that. Like that's like it literally like looks like that. Like that would be a great if this show was hugely successful. That would be great File Underwater merchandise. Actually,
find an artisanal candle maker who we can do a print on the side.
Totally do it. Like that's like literally a thing. I've seen custom, saint candles before, and like a St. Mills like candle is a good idea.
Let us know if you want that, and then also find maybe 10 to 20 more people who would want that.
Let us know if you want this multi-level marketing. We're gonna do for Mills candles.
Candles. We're gonna do this without the blessing of Mike Mills, obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but comfort and obscurity. Like we had told you to find 20 people, not 200.
Right. We just need to break even, because I'm positive you have to order a shit ton of those to make it.
Yeah. And like as much as like I would love to light all of them in my house and invite Mike Mills over. Like, I don't need use for that bulk.
Just say that we are holding a horn rimmed glasses and hair bleach convention in your house,
and then just put the whole house under a box with a stick and a string. Like, dance, bass boy. Nick, so thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
Nick says, as sort of a late bloomer to a lot of iconic alternative or indie rock bands, I've never really given R.E.M. their proper due. They were one of my mom's favorite bands, though, and have a lot of memories of her listening to Automatic for the People or the Greatest Hits album, and even singing along to the radio. She always loved the Leonard Bernstein part of It's the End of the World. When she passed away last year, it sort of prompted me to try and get into the band more, so I picked up Murmur and Eponymous CDs on the cheap and really love them. This coincided with my favorite Dark Souls podcast boys announcing their new show about R.E.M., and so far I haven't been disappointed. I love the show and the care and depth you put into it and your other work. I'm still figuring out where my R.E.M. tastes lie, but so far I love all the records you've covered on the show so far, and my favorite songs are probably Pretty Persuasion, Fall on Me, and Night Swimming. I was kind of bummed when you guys were ragging on Perfect Circle, though. Anyway, keep up the great work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's a very sweet story of your mom listening to It's the End of the World and singing Leonard Bernstein, which is everybody's favorite line to.
Yeah, and we wouldn't take away your joy at Perfect Circle.
No.
If we could. I'm
probably not going to say very nice things about Night Swimming. If I'm going to be frank,
I've got mixed feelings on Night Swimming. Like kind of like Automatic for the People in general. I feel kind of mixed on.
Yeah.
Like I like it. It has some of my favorite songs on it. But,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that is a very sweet story, and I'm happy that we've that we could serve that purpose for you to walk you through it.
Yeah, I wish I will sometimes think about my dad's musical taste as informing mine, because he was the person who got me into like Tom Petty and Paul Simon stuff, and my mom has had like pretty bad musical taste. So there's lots of Garth Brooks and stuff, and I don't feel nostalgic about Garth Brooks.
No.
So
that's kind of weird, because I had a very similar situation. My mom would always listen to like pop country stuff, whereas my dad would have like the Police and Neil Young tapes in the truck. Yeah.
It's a cool thing. It's like one of the only appeals to having kids for me.
Yeah.
Is like when they're young and malleable, like getting them into when I used to know this guy back in my band days, this guy named Tony Stanfa, who is like a songwriter I really like and musician I really like, that didn't stick with it for very long. But he had kids.
Yeah.
And he was like, he used to talk about like getting them into all this weird like krautrock and Stereolab and stuff, until his kids like started coming out terms for it. When he would listen to music that wasn't like that, his kids would be like, "This isn't bubble music," and like that was their like term for like Stereolab, and I think that's super cool. The kids are making up kind of like adjectives for the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would always be afraid that they would just instinctively react poorly to what I liked.
Yeah. And that happens. It's just when they're teens.
Yeah, true.
You gotta get them all wrong.
We should lock all teens in a tower. Like not like a bad tower. Yeah, teen tower. Not like a bad tower. I'm not saying like we should put them in prison. I'm just saying put them in a tower and let them out when they're 20.
Yeah. like not a prison, but just the
just a place where they can't leave.
Yeah. That's shaped like a tower.
Yeah.
Windows for the good kids.
Yep.
For the guards.
Yep, and half a floor for the bad kids. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Doug writes, thanks to your podcast, I've had the pleasure of revisiting R.E.M's catalog in chronological order multiple times. It's now on heavy rotation in my car, and I wonder if it will have any lasting effect on my 1-year-old daughter when she's along for the ride. I guess she ends up listening to your podcast quite a bit too, but since she's too young to understand your less appropriate jokes, she's fine for now. Probably. I think. God, I hope. A couple of those were my own. He stopped it probably. In any event, the exercise has got me thinking about why R.E.M. holds such a special place in music generally, and for me personally. I think the secret is the level of craftsmanship and thoughtfulness combined with Stipe's vocal delivery. There are plenty of bands that write catchy tunes, have deep lyrics, and play their instruments well. But for the most part, R.E.M. does all three deftly without ever sounding like they are trying too hard. They lack the pretension that plagues so many of their indie peers and descendants. And that's where Stipe comes in. His vocals are neither talking nor singing. It's as if he's simply speaking in melody. The directness of that humble sound makes it feel as if this band is meeting you on a very personal level. There are plenty of great American rock bands. I'll always be up for a Springsteen, a Neil Young, hell, even your Max Fleetwood. But there's just nothing that speaks straight to your psyche the way R.E.M. does. Thanks for putting together this incredible retrospective, and hopefully you'll be able to find another artist worthy of this treatment. Bowie, perhaps? Depeche Mode?
I think Doug's onto something where I think I've said this before, and if I haven't, it's definitely true that I think R.E.M. would not be a great band if Michael Stipe was a really good singer.
Yeah,
like if he was like excellent and classically trained and stuff, this would be wouldn't get anywhere. Like this band wouldn't have taken off. That approachableness is super important, and that it can't just be approachableness and like their sense of who they are and what they talk about. Yeah. It also has to be in level of skill. Like they popped out just like, here's a super virtuosic guitar line, and here's like they're very they're good at what they do, but it's not showy. And I can't speak for everyone, but at least for me, like I'm way put off by that stuff. Like I do not want someone to come up and like kill it with this aria in the middle of a thing.
Yeah,
that's really unappealing to me.
Yeah, I mean that's like Stipe's vocal sound is what got me into R.E.M. Like I was always somebody who liked listening to lyrics, but his the character in his voice made me kind of lean forward and kind of informed me on that. And, you know, the first R.E.M. song that I really, really got into, we're going to talk about next episode, but It's the End of the World. Like, that is kind of the example of that for me, was like just really, you know, getting into it. And I do not know that somebody else would have been able to do it in exactly the same way.
And the really cool thing is that the way that like you or I like got into him singing that way mirrors how when he talks about like being really influenced by Patti Smith and being like, I didn't know that people could sing like that. Like there's like a quote where he's like, I didn't know you could just go up there and belt it out. You know, and like that's so important to their sound and also to me in all forms of art. You know, that's like so you know, aspirational and kind of inspirational and informative of like what I like to do.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And I think it's great. I think that's really, really onto something. And then as far as like once the show ends, we don't know.
Yeah.
I think right now, like the plan is just to have it, you know, have this be the show, and then you know that we're going to do, because we've got network stuff we're going to do that may make replacing this, you know, preclude that.
Right.
We'll make announcements soon.
Yeah. And also like it's a little bit tricky because this is a shared point of history that we have kind of digressed into several times previously. There's lots of other stuff that we probably have a shared appreciation about, but one of us is way more passionate about than the other. So like for this particular collaboration, R.E.M. makes sense in a way that like a Bowie show doesn't for me to be involved in, unless it's Gary, a very one-sided thing of like, hey, here's somebody who really, really likes David Bowie, making a case to somebody who likes Bowie.
Yeah, it'd be me convincing you to make David Bowie one of your favorite bands instead of convincing the audience. Like I could do that with Bowie, but I would. This show works better because we both like the thing about equally, you know, roughly equal amounts. And like I love Depeche Mode, but I don't think Depeche Mode would be a good candidate for this. I think the thing with like Bowie has a lot of changes. Yeah. You know, specifically.
Yes. Also changes. Yeah.
You know, and he has those different eras, and it would actually be like almost like a lot more intimidating than that because the eras are so distinct. Yeah. Like Bowie would be really tricky to do, but it would be cool. It would support it. But it would just have to be, again, something that we both liked in equal turns. Yeah.
Like Neil Young would be pretty similar, but there are lots of dry stretches. Like after Harvest and before Trans, there's some fucking bullshit. And then after Trans and before Harvest Moon, there's some fucking bullshit.
Like, and not that there's not bullshit with Bowie or R.E.M. either, but like, you know, Neil Young would be a tricky one for that. Like if it almost feels like, and this is not this is only thinking out loud. This is not saying the thing we do, but it would make more sense, I think, actually to go kind of smaller. Yeah. With that, like it's like you could do this kind of show and have a good show about like Velvet Underground. Yep. It'd be really short because they have a short history, but like that's interesting and they're hugely influential and like worth talking about. Yeah. And continuously. Yeah. As opposed to going something that like a band that goes longer than R.E.M. does and has even more, you know, ups and downs. Yeah. You know, and also like even like I like Neil Young a lot. I don't like Neil Young as much as I like R.E.M. Yeah. Like I couldn't do that, you know. I could, but it would be probably the inverse of the David Bowie thing. Like it would probably be cool convincing somebody who likes Neil Young to love Neil Young. Right. Yeah. You know, and I'm just not there. So this is kind of just the perfect storm for that, I think. Yeah. But, you know, if this were popular and it informs other people to do the same thing, like, I don't know, I'm happy if somebody else franchises the approach. Like, go for it. We didn't invent it. Like, it's not, you know, we didn't invent the album by album guide to something. No. So, yeah, it would be pretty cool. Jacob says, as a much younger man, I used to listen to a lot of Weird Al and would frequently discover other bands through his parodies. I'm glad you're bringing this up, Jacob, because I would have at some point. One day, while a friend and I were listening to the song Frank's 2000-inch TV, I realized I wasn't sure who, if anyone, the song was parodying. So I asked my friend. His response was, it's a style parody of R.E.M., but honestly, it's a weird enough subject that could actually be an R.E.M. song and be a metaphor condemning consumerism or something. While he meant that as more of a dismissal of R.E.M., it piqued my socialist sensibilities. Weird Al lyrics, anti-capitalism metaphors, sign me up. R.E.M. is a special band for me because, in part because they always feel real. Even when Michael Stipe is obviously turning the art school dork stuff up to 11, it is obviously coming from a real place, and it makes it charming instead of pretentious. They became one of the biggest bands in America and yet remain the same as they started. A little older, a little richer, but more or less the same nice Southern boys they started as. I'm looking forward to when you two cover Up. It's my favorite R.E.M. album. Sorry, Bill Berry. And I'm hoping you guys at the very least don't hate it. It's not them at their best, but the fact that they were trying to figure out where R.E.M. was going to go without Barry and almost broke up while recording it lends the album some emotional weight for me. It's also very cute to me that Mike Mills said something along the lines of, "These lyrics are really great. We should put them on the record sleeve." And Stipe agreeing because printing the lyrics would show how different of a band R.E.M. was compared to earlier. I love the podcast. It's a great format you have going, and I hope you find another band to deep dive when all is said and done.
Yeah. So I seeing the title Frank's 2000-inch TV, I was like, oh, that's kind of familiar. Then I remembered that album, Alapalooza, was the Weird Al album that I had on
Weird
tape.
album.
Weird album,
Oh.
yeah. Ooh. That's what I had on tape growing up. And I loved that song. I didn't remember the title, but I went and listened to it, and like immediately, like I was like eating a push pop on my grandma's deck, listening to that on my Walkman. I was like, oh shit, the seeds were laid.
Yeah. It's great. Like,
Yeah.
I've sure I've said this before on a podcast, but I think Weird Al is actually like incredibly impressive.
Yes.
And I think those style parody things are super hard to do and show an understanding of music that belies his novelty status.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it sounds like such a good like R.E.M. song. It's like, this is a really good pop song. It's immediately recognizable as, a pastiche of this band without actually being, a direct cover. Like, I love those things.
Yeah.
And they really like, some of them are just like incredible. Like, I've definitely met people who didn't know that like Dare to Be Stupid wasn't Devo. The one they do one for Sparks called Virus Alert, I think is that one. And that's really good.
Huh.
Like, it sounds a lot like a Sparks song. And this is why he would do that for like weird bands like that. Like,
yeah,
not everybody knows Sparks, but he would kind of do these those little things.
Yeah. Kind of along those lines, something that it's an album that I liked a lot in high school. Liam Lynch, the guy who one of the guys behind Syphil and Ollie, does the voice of Ollie. He put out an album called Fake Songs that was pretty much just all style parodies. So like Fake Pixies song, that were like mostly really good. Like the album itself was just a way to get My United States of Whatever like out on a single in the early 2000s, but the stuff that came along with it was really good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think I like Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to covering Up. Like, I think Up is a cool album.
It's going to be interesting to talk about. I like Up a lot as well. I think I'm more of a reveal boy myself. And I think that the intersection line between those two, Great Beyond, is actually really good. Yeah,
Great Beyond's a great song.
Yeah.
It will definitely be interesting to talk about that, though, because I feel really strongly the other way.
Yeah.
About that. Like, Up is not one of my favorite R.E.M's albums. Like, I like it a lot, but I like it a lot more than I like Reveal.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to kind of go and figure out why. There's also a very and this for Jacob, if you haven't seen it, on YouTube, there's a really revealing documentary about the making of Up.
Yeah. Rises to Fall, I think.
Yeah. And that's amazing. Yeah. Like, it's showing them training new people in the band, and the new people in the band suck. And like, just watching them just kind of like struggle through this. Like, this was such a cohesive unit and no longer is.
Yeah.
Is really, really kind of heartbreaking and interesting to watch.
Yeah. I loved the scene where they took a Sharpie and then connected all of their eyebrows.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a dumb joke. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It'll be interesting to get to those records. And I mean, even the two revival ones too, like Accelerate and Collapse in an Hour, I'm interested in talking about too, because like, those are not my favorite things in the world, but they're interesting and there are good songs on there. And I'm glad that they ended on that.
Yeah. The singles from those are like kind of universally pretty great. Like Accelerate, or no, I'm sorry, not Accelerate. Uberlin is
Uberlin's really good.
Yeah.
Uberlin. I think Supernatural, Super Serious is like a super good song.
Yep.
Like, that's it's a little too on the nose with the lyrics, but like, that's a good song.
I mean, we're right in the middle of them being way too on the nose with the lyrics.
Yeah, that's not really going to go away totally.
Right.
Either, Discover is a really good song. Like, those are good records.
Yeah. Yeah. So is this me for James?
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. So James writes, so I'll admit it. I'm a bit too young to really know R.E.M. I know the big hits and such, but really, I jumped in blind with this podcast, but I didn't do it alone since I've been listening to it with my dad. It's been a lot of fun, too, since it's a bit of an expansion of something that I do a lot, asking him about old music shit. He can usually give me some insight to the context of these strange artifacts that I find out on the internet. For R.E.M., it was kind of a band that he liked, but it happened around him. He listened to the records with his college roommate or borrowed from his brother. His favorite was Radio Free Europe, since he's an audio engineer and that kind of stuff was really cool when he was young. He still does these hour-long shows in practice, and the most recent one is R.E.M. themed. It's also fun because he doesn't really know you guys. We've talked a bit about the fast-talking guy and the quiet guy a bit. Quiet guy is his favorite. Gary, I think you're the quiet guy.
I talk pretty fast.
Yeah, I think that I talk fast. I think you're quieter than me.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know. Don't tell us, James. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
This way we can both feel okay.
I don't. Yeah, I'm fine if his dad likes you a little bit more. I'll concede that.
I'm honestly fine with that too. You can have James' dad.
Of course you are, because he likes you more.
But I don't know what he does. I don't know if that's what that's referring to. So we don't know.
Episode boys with fast and quiet.
Yeah. Yep.
Continuing with James, he also says that those guys have probably thought more about R.E.M. than I have. I just can't help but think about him branching off and listening to the other shows. Man, it would be funny to hear him talk about Bonfireside Chat, though maybe Teenage Dirtbags is a better direction. Sorry if this is a little bit long. I'm writing in for the both of us. Thank you for giving the two of us this experience. P.S. Shout out to my dad's old radio show that he had in California, where he had a running joke with pre-Simpsons Matt Groening, which would end with them burying him in the parking lot.
Oh,
yeah,
that's very cute.
Yeah,
I guess we'd know which one was his favorite if he listened to Teenage Dirtbags.
Yes,
because then he would be like, now it's Quiet Guy and whatever Brayton is, or now it's
Human Paragon. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's Fast Guy and Adonis. Yeah. Vocal Adonis, Brayton Cameron. Thanks, James.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very sweet. Yeah. We're your dads now, so we will teach you about old music stuff.
we're not replacing him. We're just joining him.
No, it's just a triumvirate. Yeah. The tribunal has spoken. You shall listen to this old music.
Yep, fast dad, quiet dad, and real dad.
Yeah, and bio dad.
Yeah.
Well, we got dads in 3 flavors: fast, quiet, and bio.
No, but I'm happy that
like spells you would learn from Siren in Final Fantasy VI. like some weird off esper.
Are there any more jokes we can make that James's dad won't get?
I don't know. It's cool that you knew Matt Groening.
Yeah. No, way into it. I'm happy we gave you something to share with your dad.
Yeah, that's very sweet.
Yeah.
Matt says, just wanted to say thank you for the podcast. I'm really enjoying listening and revisiting the band along with you, and felt compelled to share a little story, my little story with R.E.M. As a kid, I wasn't much interested in music, more of a football, soccer if we must, and movies type. After hearing and liking a snippet of It's the End of the World as We Know It in Independence Day, my parents bought me the Best of the IRS Years for Christmas. After listening to that song on repeat for hours while playing Tomb Raider 2, I decided to give the rest of the album a try, and an obsession with music that would dominate my next 15 years began. I finally got a chance to see the band in February of 2005 when they played my hometown of Sheffield. Unfortunately, Mike Mills was taken ill and was rushed to the hospital just before they came on stage. Michael Stipe and Peter Buck came out to announce to a packed arena that the show was canceled, and as a consolation, played a short acoustic set of The One I Love, Leaving New York, I've Been High, and Losing My Religion. It was wonderful in its own way, even with the lady in front of us constantly shouting that it was a joke and he was about to burst on stage and begin the show. I guess she couldn't accept that those legendary pranksters, Stipe and Buck, might be telling the truth. Anyway, the show was rescheduled for that summer, and we got to see something pretty unique in the bargain. And most importantly, Mike Mills was fine. Sorry for the long-winded message, but this is all to say thanks for helping me remember how special this band is to me.
Mike Mills is going to get here. You'll see.
Yeah, he's like, this is not... I like how she's shouting it.
Yeah.
Like, this is a joke!
You frauds! You
He's coming! Don't be fooled! Red pill, people!
She's a Mike Mills red pillar.
Yeah, I'll take the Mills pill. The red Mills.
Yeah, that's a super good story.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had seen them more than once, you know?
I wish that I'd seen them at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think the last time they performed close to me was when they were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I've seen videos from it where Eddie Vedder gets up and sings songs with them, and that would have been very bad. I don't know that I would have liked that one bit.
Didn't miss that much. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. We have another story about a live show here. Christopher writes, I'm really enjoying the first episode of File Underwater. You wrote this in a while ago. I just included it because it's a good story. So I'll retake that. I'm really enjoying the first episode of File Underwater. It's bringing back a lot of memories for me. In my senior year of college in 1986 and 87, my friend took me to see an R.E.M. concert. And by concert, I mean 1,000 college students in a ballroom on a campus, not in a big arena or stadium. And he looked it up and found out that it was in a place, let me look here, like the Pan American Center in New Mexico. Thinking about it later, part of it wasn't making sense, though. I recalled it being a small venue, but the tour page specified that it was the Pan American Center, which is a basketball arena. So I emailed my friend to both tell him about this podcast and ask about the venue. This is his response. It was in Pan Am. I think they cut it in half with a curtain. I got free tickets by giving them a bunch of pizzas from Little Caesars. Everyone's favorite youth group standby.
Yeah.
So the venue was not super small, but that last detail makes me smile. At the time, I was listening to what is now called classic rock: Rush, Led Zeppelin, The Who, The Rolling Stones, etc. The next day, I went out and purchased the cassette of Life's Rich Pageant, and it completely changed my music life. We called it alternative at the time. I stopped listening to bands like The Cure.
Started listening.
Thank you. I started listening to bands like The Cure, Depeche Mode, and the Smashing Pumpkins. I changed my radio stations and even started hanging out with a different crowd. I followed R.E.M. religiously well into the mid-90s. The last album that I purchased was Up. I guess we drifted apart as they became more mainstream, and I stayed more on the alternative side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the idea of a curtain party funded by Little Caesars Pizza.
Then that curtain thing, I've seen the Flaming Lips twice.
Okay.
The first time on Transmissions of Satellite Heart, so like the She Don't Use Jelly album, and it was a big outdoor thing, and it was huge.
Oh wow.
At the college, and then the second time it was the Soft Bulletin, and they must have, like, I don't know how the show was undersold or whatever, but it was in like our rinky-dink ballroom at the college in my hometown. And they curtained it off into like a quarter. Like there were curtains surrounding three sides, and then the stage was on the fourth side to make it look packed when it was not. Like it was, a really undersold show.
Huh.
And like, I appreciate that kind of as like an ego protecting move for bands. But like it was just really surprising because like that album was pretty big.
Yeah.
And the next album was huge, and like I just thought it would be much, much bigger.
Yeah. I'm kind of kicking myself because I had a chance to go see the Flaming Lips. They came through Cincinnati in 2009 or 10. I was in college for Embryonic, the album with Convinced of the Hex on it. I like that album a lot. But they came through in a venue that a lot of people like. It's called Bogart's. It's near the campus, but I really hate it. So it's like, I'm not going to go to a venue I don't like to see a band that I do like. Is where I came down on it.
For me, like I have no interest in seeing the Flaming Lips like now that they're kind of like just a production gimmick that's shaped like a band. Like I don't know. Those guys let me down. Like those guys have gone so far towards not being what I conceive of as a band. Yeah. That like, I don't know. Like I don't like, it doesn't, like you read about it. It's like, oh, they got people with bunny suits that come out and dance around and like just do, they throw Frisbees into the audience. And then there's, things like that. There's just like an element of like, I don't know, like I'm the cosmic fool and I'm ready to just, blow your square mind. Yeah. Kind of to it, that it feels like, I mean, we talked about how like shitty the insult try hard is, but that's what it feels like. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're like really, really, it feels insecure to me in a weird way. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I could see that. I heard people tell stories of that show and it sounded like a good time. I don't know. Oh yeah. I can see it. Embryonic is not bad. Like I like Embryonic. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. James says finally, as an Athenian since 2003, I can't help but be immersed in the legend and lore of R.E.M.
Ley lines of their myth run under every street corner, and everyone has a personal Michael Stipe was artfully quirky in my presence tale. My wife ran her buggy into his buggy at Target once, and he sheepishly apologized, making zero eye contact. As my present job puts me in contact with the band members on a regular basis, oh cool, and their management more often, I can't dish dirt. But File Underwater has gotten me to do one thing I never actually did: listen to the records. I've always had a greatest hits level appreciation of R.E.M., but listening to Chronic Town and Murmur for the first time was a real eye-opener. Both records are exactly what I expected, but still find cool ways to defy their later pop sheen. Wolf's Lower is such a menacing song. Looking forward to listening along with the rest. Worth noting, the other key 80s Southern college rock band that R.E.M. should have been seen alongside with is Georgia's own Drivin' and Cryin'. And I actually have stories about that for the next episode. Who play like every other weekend around here. The late Vic Chestnut, who wore a Santa hat when I sold a book to him, is also part of this movement. I'm pretty sure that Kristen Hirsch is pushing his wheelchair. Keep up the good work. Love the shows.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's cool that you get to work adjacent to the band and their management.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Jealous. It's not that our show is nothing like theirs, but the U2 show that they do on Earwolf.
Yeah.
Because it's on Earwolf and they're like, a huge network. At some point, that show culminates in them meeting U2, like U2 being on the show. It's a really, really cute episode. One, because like I don't like U2 very much, but the guys are really fun. Yep. Like they're surprisingly funny and cute. And there's like a thing where like one of them, like they make a joke and Bono's like, drawing like an autograph for Scott Ackerman, like draws a dick and like hands it over to him or something on the air. And like, it's and their guys are just like, they're still professional comedians who have to stay on top of things, but they're meeting people who are like their absolute heroes. And it's really sweet.
Yeah.
So James, if you could do that for us, that'd be great.
Let us know if you can. They on you talking U2 to me, they talk a lot of yay about the group, right? Like there's stuff that they just like very vocally don't like that they do.
Oh, not so much. Like they're pretty kind about it, actually.
Oh, wow. Huh.
I think that in general, like they're probably kinder to a higher percentage of songs than we are. And even stuff that like I think is pretty indefensible, like and like they're like way into the 6-minute remix things of discotheque, pop art songs and stuff.
Yeah. No.
Well, it's really cool to have that kind of contact though, and you never know like what kind of like famous people you're going to be adjacent to. When you work for that kind of thing, like, it's just kind of strange, like, meeting people who are famous like that. It's weird,
but thank you.
And the fact that you didn't like the James didn't like listen to the band, is such an interesting thing where it's like, oh, like, and now you have this whole context for people,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting.
It's one of those things where if it's just your job, it can seem not as special to, as it would to rubes like us who are like, your wife ran into Michael Stipe.
Yeah.
She'd probably handle it much better than I would have.
I would have we were just joking about getting them on the show, but I would actually probably be like too nervous to do anything.
Yeah. To take Ron Gilbert, that first appearance and then magnify it by about 5,000.
That'd be really hard. Cause those guys are funny dudes, but like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that would be a real quick way for me to feel not funny or smart. Like instantly like regress into into an embryo. Just
like every word out of it. What the fuck have I done? Sorry.
Yeah, well,
thank you for coming, Mike and Michael. What the fuck have I done?
And it's not even that. Just like the first like joke that I try to make that just totally doesn't land, and just I would implode.
Oh yeah.
Like and just crumble in on myself, like just
brittle wax.
Yeah, just fall apart. That's super cool though. Like I love that idea, and it's such a weird thing that you can just be a target. It's like I'll start getting a target, like just like
probably candles and dryer sheets.
It's very funny to think of Michael Stipe going and buying dryer sheets, like yeah, that's great. I think he shaved his gigantic mountain man beard.
Oh yeah, his Instagram. I haven't looked at his Instagram in a while.
I think I saw a picture of him. I think is more recent than that. That is shaved. So
yeah. It was a good look. It was shocking to see him like that. A, on his Instagram, and B, when he did the Bowie tribute. But yeah, it worked for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Yeah,
that's really cool to hear.
Very, very grateful for those stories, and also for everybody writing in. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be back in 2 weeks to talk about Document. And we'll be back 2 weeks after that to talk about Green, and we will continue. We'll announce the next time we're going to do a response episode.
Yeah.
Which will be sometime.
Yes. Which we can assure you will be in the future.
Yes.
Don't go back and listen for new ones before this one. Previous pleas and previous cries to have you share this show with your friends are still in effect. We really only thrive on word of mouth. So if you have friends who dig music, friends who dig podcasts, or friends who like R.E.M., please, send one of our episodes their way. That would do a great deal to help us out.
Yeah, a huge help.
Yeah,
we love it. So thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I think, if you, this show is only made possible by our patrons at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah.
If you patronize us now, thank you very much. If not, please consider it. It makes a big difference.
We just recently passed the $5,000 mark, which is gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next stretch goal is at $5,500.
That is correct. Yeah.
And that is, a stone's throw away. So be on the lookout for a pilot for that. That's coming out.
Yeah.
Relatively soon. I think that's probably it.
So.
Ratings, reviews, all that stuff's very helpful. And so until next time, it's the end of the podcast as we know it.
We feel fine. Recovered from the trip?
Yeah, I feel fine.
Cool.
It took me a couple days, but I'm good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm doing okay too. So
good.
Yeah.
Good to hear. No. Been nonstop practicing my uke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's real fun. Like, check out what I can do now. Here it's simple. We think banking should be easy. Like, it all sounds like that.
Yes. Member FDIC.
Yeah, we know you're